what's up?
When we think divas, we think Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey embodies glitz and glamour. Mariah's career was the ultimate roller coaster, one that comes with a lot of glittering highs and some messy, meme-worthy lows. Mariah absolutely ruled the 90s with back-to-back number ones and the iconic butterfly moments. To battling industry sabotage by her ex, Mariah's story is one of resilience wrapped in rhinestones. She really did get it out the mud. She has a story that very few truly know about, with her family drama, her siblings' betrayal, a strained relationship with her mother, and almost falling into a conservatorship. She almost had Britney's fate. You would think she is starring in her own Lifetime movie. She's always carried herself to a high standard, even with her tumultuous marriage to Nick Cannon. Yeah, Nick Cannon. She will never let anyone dim her light. Her voice is a voice generations will remember. She is the Mariah Carey, an unstoppable powerhouse that has stood with the test of time in terms of longevity and her becoming the Queen of Christmas. But before we get into this, here's a word from today's sponsor, HelloFresh. Hello to my beautiful subscribers. It's that time of year where we set resolutions. And if you're like me, you're probably promising to eat healthier, save time, and maybe even cook just a little bit more. Well, let me put you on to the ultimate hack, HelloFresh. As a busy college student, juggling homework, activities, and let's be real, trying to survive, I never have time to meal prep. Running the grocery store? Forget it. Half the time, I'm staring into my fridge at random ingredients with no clue what to do. That's why HelloFresh has been a lifesaver. They deliver high-quality, sustainable source ingredients. Yes, the veggies are fresh, straight from the farm, and each recipe comes with easy step-by-step instructions. It's like having a personal chef plan everything out for me. With over 50 chef-crafted recipes to choose from each week, I can always find something that fits my mood. Lately, I've been loving their customizable options, whether it's a homemade burger or some salmon. I just want to stick to my resolution with good, fresh ingredients. Plus, HelloFresh Market is a clutch. Let me tell you about the delicious dinner I am making right now. Pork tacos. HelloFresh sent everything I need, and I'm making it happen with some serious flavor. And if you're Caribbean, you know you gotta roll the limes first. I just finished chopping up some onions and cutting up the cilantro to mix with the slaw we're gonna add on the side. After I cut up my fresh ingredients, I'm cooking the ground pork and following the instructions. I'm breaking it up, but I do want to add more seasonings to this, like pepper and paprika, just to add a teeny bit more flavor. Next, I let it brown a bit before I add the paste and seasoning powder provided. Once I'm done, I clean off my skillet and toast my tortilla. This is optional. I just personally like my tortilla warm. I put everything on the side and make the slaw. I add mayo, the cilantro, and a little bit of lime. And we're all done, and when I tell you this was actually good, it was packed with flavor and delicious. And the best part, it's quick and easy and tastes like something you get at a regular taco spot. Luckily for my subscribers, I've got a deal for you. You can get up to 10 free meals and free shipping on your first box at HelloFresh.com using my code CC10FM. That's up to 10 free meals to kickstart your New Year goals without breaking a sweat. Just go to HelloFresh.com and use my code CC10FM or click the link in my description box below. HelloFresh is the move. So let's start 2025 off right. Mariah Carey was born on March 27th in Huntington, New York, to Alfred Roy Carey, an aeronautical engineer, and Patricia Carey, a Juilliard-trained opera singer and vocal coach. Her mother is white and her father is African American and Afro-Venezuelan, her parents having 3 kids, Morgan and Alison, who were significantly older than Mariah. With Mariah being the youngest of the bunch, she always had a really complicated relationship with her family. Her mother, Patricia's family, disowned Patricia for marrying a black man. This was in the early 60s, where interracial marriages and racism were more prominent and frowned on. When the family moved around to find stable living, they dealt with racism in predominantly white neighborhoods because of her father. They dealt with constant harassment from their neighbors, like burning and killing their dog, to having their windows shot at. Eventually, they moved out of the neighborhood, but tension still remained within their family dynamics. Mariah's parents divorced when she was 3, and she ended up living with her mother while her siblings lived with their father. Her siblings were way older than Mariah and dealt with the brunt of their parents' drama, mixed in with living in a racist community and not feeling like they fit in, with each sibling having their own individual problems. Mariah has described her brother as angry and violent with rage that nobody could understand but him. But this relationship wasn't seemingly worse than her relationship with her sister Alison. When Mariah was young, she went through a ton of traumatic experiences with Alison. In her 2020 memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, she described that Alison, being the second eldest, witnessed and experienced much of the family turmoil. She dealt with serious emotional issues, including substance abuse. Alison has made a lot of accusations toward her family, including their mother. Alison alleged that when she was 10 years old, her mother allowed men to engage in sexual acts with her and made her witness people engage in SA with adults and children. She claims that these were rituals for satanic worship and sacrifices, according to Alison. Regardless of the validity of these claims, Alison from a young age was troubled and did feel like she had to grow up early. At 16, she got pregnant, and being a young mom didn't help her situation. Alison moved across the world to live with her baby daddy in the Philippines. She came back in a few years, and according to Mariah, she was a completely different person. Meaning, Alison was abusing even more substances and doing some strange things for some change. At just 12 years old, Mariah says she was drugged with Valium by Alison, who at the time was already facing her own struggles with substance abuse and personal challenges. One day, Mariah recounts that shortly after consuming the substance, she began to feel disoriented and unwell, an experience that left her terrified. She alleges that this was a part of a pattern of destructive behavior Alison exhibited towards her, which also includes exposing her to unsafe environments. Mariah claims that Alison also attempted to introduce her to an inappropriate and potentially harmful adult situation, including trying to sell her off to a pimp. Mariah was living with her mom at the time, so when her sister came back, her mom was working multiple jobs and struggling. So when Alison returned, she showed an interest in Mariah for the first time. She said that Alison began luring her by doing things like secretly getting Mariah her own phone line without her mom knowing. Because Alison was giving Mariah things she never had, Mariah was quickly won over. Alison was living with her new boyfriend, whom Mariah later learned was a pimp. She used to invite Mariah to the nice house where she was allowed to watch as much TV as she wanted and snack on all the foods her mom couldn't afford. Mariah was also told by her sister to never tell anyone that she was over there, or tell her mom that Alison and her boyfriend would take her to Manhattan to go get IHOP and giving her the attention that she craved. But Mariah soon learned that it was manipulation masquerading in love. Mariah even stating, "Now of course it's clear to me that the funhouse was a I think my sister was some kind of a hustler, the talent scout." Mariah recalls a day that Alison and John, the quote-unquote boyfriend, were supposed to pick her up, but he came solo and had a gun in his lap. He first took her to a card-playing venue where there was a lot of adult men that made lewd references at her. The next stop was a drive-in movie where he immediately put his arm around her. She recalled her body going stiff as he pushed in closer and forced a hard kiss on her. She became so scared and felt immobilized. She said she was saved by an elderly man who pulled in next to them and gawked at the two. He then pulled out of the parking lot and drove Mariah home in silence. This is the most traumatizing event that Mariah went through, and whether or not she's telling the full story, it does give a glimpse as to why Mariah kept her distance from her sister. Because after this event, she said she unplugged the phone that Alison gave her. She also recalls a time that Alison was dropping her off outside their mom's home and pulled out a baggie of powder and held it up to Mariah's face, telling her to try it. Mariah instantly knew it was cocaine and it scared her to death. She never took it, but took it as a moment in her life that could have changed the trajectory of her career.
A desperate public plea from superstar Mariah Carey's ailing 54-year-old sister Alison. Alison says she's facing serious health issues. She's also admittedly had a troubled life of drug addiction and a record of Inside Edition interviewed Alison in 1995. They were estranged even back then.
I love my sister, and she's broken my heart so many times.
Through the years, Mariah has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting Alison and her children. But Alison says she's in urgent need now.
As for the relationship with her mother Patricia, it's a rocky one driven by love and jealousy. Patricia was a Juilliard-trained opera singer and vocal coach who introduced Mariah to the world of music, nurturing her early talent and instilling in her a passion for singing. Even though Patricia was a phenomenal singer herself, well-seasoned, and helped Mariah build her technique, she was also a bit jealous of her daughter's awakening talent. Patricia once said haunting words to Mariah saying, "You should only hope that one day you become half the singer I am." Mariah dealt with pieces of emotional neglect and criticism from her mother, but her mother also trained her, instilling the idea of never saying never, changing her words to affirmative sentences like "when I become," subconsciously ensuring in Mariah that she was destined to become. Her mother worked a lot following the divorce and often left Mariah at home or had other people care for her, which contributed to the resentment Mariah's siblings had for her, thinking Mariah had gotten the good life while her siblings dealt with the neglect from their parents.
How would you describe the neglect?
I think it's really a tough job to be a mother. So that said, I would say the neglect was on several levels. I always felt dirty. I didn't feel put together, leaving me with people that were not safe, and also being one of those people that wasn't always safe for me either, emotionally. Yes, and on both sides of the spectrum, because it wasn't that I didn't like my hair when it was behaving, but as I grew up a little bit, it went from baby hair to like matted, unruly hair that nobody was combing through or understanding that you can't have a little girl running around with mats in her head.
Mariah's start into doing music really came from working her way up and bumping shoulders with the right people. She moved to Manhattan in the late 80s and landed a gig working as a background singer for Brenda K. Starr. Brenda played a huge role in Mariah's up-and-coming career, being the reason why she met Tommy Mottola on the night out in New York. They went to an industry party where Brenda was the one to introduce Mariah to Tommy, even handing her demo tape. Lord knows we all need a Brenda in our lives. Brenda being supportive and helping to advance Mariah's career not only as a friend and a co-worker but also as a happy mentor. Tommy left the party with the tape and listened to it in the limo. Once he heard Mariah's vocals, he turned back around to find Mariah. By then, she had already left. She served her purpose for the night and left the party. He spent weeks looking for Mariah because he was enamored by her voice. Before Mariah signed with Tommy, she had met a producer named Ben Margulies, who had a small studio that Mariah could work in. He gave her a chance while she was dirt broke. She signed a contract with him, and at the time, she did what she felt was best, but later discovered the contract meant for her first album, he'd get 50% ownership, and the following 5 albums after, he'd receive royalties. This contract is what Mariah describes as one of the worst contracts in history. Once Mariah signed with Tommy, he visited the studio with Ben and was convinced that Ben wasn't equipped enough to truly produce a flawless album for Mariah, putting her to work immediately with the goal to make her bigger than Whitney Houston. In 1990, Mariah Carey dropped her debut album, Mariah Carey. Columbia spent a whopping $1 million promoting the album, and with that promotion came a national anthem performance at the 1990 NBA Finals, where the world first heard Mariah Carey's High Whistle. The album topped the US Billboard for 11 weeks, with the album also becoming the best-selling album of 1991. Her next album was Emotions, which made history, reaching 8 million instead of the 15 from her debut. Emotions was a dedication to Motown soul and really showcased her whistle technique. Emotions was Mariah's lead single and became Mariah's 5th chart topper on the Billboard Hot 100, making her the first artist whose first 5 singles reached the chart. Mariah's voice became a topic of conversation as people started speculating that she was a studio worm, meaning she just was getting extra help in the studio vocally. People didn't think she was truly hitting those notes by herself. So to prove the haters wrong, she booked an MTV Unplugged performance. This was back when MTV actually revolved their network around music. This was where artists performed live behind a band. It was basically the modern day Tiny Desk. She performed live and swayed the audience. She blew the roof. She also performed a cover of Jackson 5, I'll Be There, that ended up hitting the charts and becoming her 6th #1 single. By this time, Tommy and Mariah slowly started developing a flirtatious relationship. They already worked well together, as Tommy explained that Mariah had drive and amazing work ethic. With Mariah's background, that is pretty believable considering she was broke and trying to make a career for herself. She took her position really seriously. Tommy and Mariah had the same goal and vision for music and her career. Tommy paid Ben a fat check to allow Mariah to work with other producers along with royalties he got for the next 4 albums. I know that man is forever thankful that Mariah walked into his studio. Tommy's relationship with Mariah grew to the point Tommy started mentioning Mariah in his therapy sessions. Even though his therapist told him not to pursue Mariah, he felt compelled to anyways. By this time, Mariah had won a few Grammys and was breaking records. His attraction formed in more ways than one. She was beautiful and extremely talented and making him a lot of money. He couldn't get enough of her. Tommy acknowledges that he was the one to pursue Mariah and they began dating. He cared for Mariah and her career. A little too much where he became very controlling. At first, Mariah details the relationship as not more so for attraction but for comfortability in a fatherly way mixed with financial stability. He was like a cushion for her, pushing for her dreams to come true and the security she didn't have growing up. Mariah was 18 and he was in his 40s. In 1993, Tommy and Mariah got married, a marriage that Tommy said Mariah asked him for, her thinking it was a way to survive in the relationship. Months into the relationship, things started getting very weird. Mariah being young and extremely successful, she wanted to branch out. She wanted to celebrate her accomplishments and honestly just live her life. And Tommy instead kept her confined in the house. And it was really a situation with a strong power dynamic. Mariah marrying Tommy was like marrying her father. She was young and hadn't fully lived her life. Of course, she wanted to go out and be more sensual and sexy in her videos. I mean, that's pretty normal for someone in their 20s.
You know, Tommy Mottola played a big part in your life. Did you think you were in love in the beginning? Because you said, I intended to be married to Tommy for the rest of my life.
In the very beginning, I did feel protected by him. I definitely felt that we had a bond in music, for sure. I felt that he believed in me. And that was huge. I didn't feel that support as a person, though. Like, I didn't feel like he got the fact that I was also, you know, a human being with my own feelings and thoughts and needs. You know, even before the actual marriage, the relationship was already so skewed, meaning the power dynamics were never what they should have been in a real relationship. It's ironic, you know, my voice was being heard by millions of people, you know, on a label that he controlled, but my actual voice as a woman, as a human being, was really kind of shushed, you know, and not encouraged. If I hadn't emerged from that, I don't know what I would be.
This video was epic. She directed it herself. It was shot at her house. It was in black and white. That was the first place I ever seen a ridiculous mansion like that. It was her and Tommy Mottola's house. She was still married to him. They lived next door to Ralph Lauren. Damn. Okay, the studio, outside of the studio was an indoor pool. You could look outside the window to the studio and the indoor pool was right there. It was amazing. What
was that like, Brett?
Man, we got so many memories. Well, the sad part is that she was like a princess trapped in a castle because we had to whisper to talk. It was microphones in the walls and stuff. Every time she moved, the security went with her. If she would laugh or something too hard, security would come stop her and see what she was doing. It was like, it was crazy.
Are you serious?
So, yeah, it was crazy. It's all in her book, but yeah, we instantly clicked. We both Aries, and she felt like she could live vicariously through me because I really didn't care what I said back then. So she was like, you know, happy to be around somebody that didn't care, that, you know, that they could just speak their mind, because she didn't get a chance to do that. This song was epic. Jermaine Dupri produced it, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it. We shot the video at her house in the snow. Man, it was everything.
Have y'all ever performed it live all together?
Oh yeah, yes we have.
Wow.
Yes, we have. It's a blessing, man. A real blessing.
Brett, that was when she was married to Tommy Mottola.
Yes.
or whatever. So that marriage was just bad.
Man, it was probably okay at first, but then it just went bad. He was like real possessive and stuff, and he didn't let her do nothing. You know, she wanted to do songs with rappers, and she was a writer, so she had a bunch of ideas. She's a homegirl from like New York, but he tried to turn her into something that she wasn't. So that's why they ended up divorcing and stuff, because she was so unhappy, like trapped in a castle.
Wow. And that's how y'all became, from that video shoot, that's how y'all became really good friends?
Yep, we met before that. We recorded the song at that same house, and then after that we shot the video at that house. So we became great friends. We both Aries, and we just used to sneak off where the microphones were not, and we used to talk and just laugh. She actually showed me her car. She had like 20 cars that she never could drive. I was like, "All these yours? Let's go!" So we got in trouble when we left. We went about a block away to go to Burger King. Yeah, we went about a block away to Burger King. She just wanted to get some French fries, and she drove the car. She had never drove them. She drove the car. When we left, when I tell you her security, everybody was going crazy. They had JD hemmed up, asking him he better call me. They had guns out. He was nervous. He texted me, "Brat, you better get back here." We had pagers back then. He was paging me like, "Brat, please come back here. Where y'all at? They tripping." You know, he was nervous and scared, and I was like, "We just going to Burger King to get some fries." Oh man, it was.
Brett, you never told me any of this stuff. This is like.
I'm serious. It's in her book, her memoir book. It's an audio book too, and it's
security literally walking around the house, following her around.
Yes. Anytime she would smile or look happy, they would come shut it down. It was sad. It was something. I'm telling you.
Jermaine's early days, when he was trying to break out in the music industry, he collaborated with none other than Mariah Carey. The doc reveals that he, the Brat, and a few others went to work with Mariah in a recording studio located on the estate of Mariah's then-husband, record executive Tommy Mottola.
Now, Mariah states in the doc that she felt like a prisoner while on the estate and claims she was constantly watched by guards. The doc claims that one day, while Jermaine was recording, Mariah and the Brat left the estate and all hell broke loose. Jermaine reveals to me what he saw when he was there. Watch.
I'm just this guy, producer, just trying to get my music out, try to do what I'm doing. I didn't even know what we was walking into. But I felt it once I was there, when the little situation left and her and Brett, they left the house. I could feel like, man, what the hell is this? Like, I was looking around like, boy, we're somewhere else that I didn't know we were, I felt like we was definitely in a situation. When they left, and I don't want to tell people, but you got to watch it, but yeah, when they left and they ran off from the house.
Mariah Carey released her third album, Music Box, which had the singles Hero and Dream Lover. Hero became an unexpected success for Mariah because she originally felt like her urban audience would think she was straying away from her roots. It was Tommy who pushed her to put that song on the album because he felt like it would become a universal song that would have more impact. Which he was actually right about. The song became a staple for depressed teenagers, writing her notes thanking her, charity events, and inaugural celebrations. And for Rihanna, because she sang the song for her audition tape.
And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast the fears aside.
Either way, Music Box became one of her best-selling albums of all time. Tommy's suggestions turned out to continue to be career-defining as he egged her on to create a Christmas album, and boy, was this one of the many career-defining albums for Mariah. This album alone is like a historical piece in the musical archives. Creating holiday-themed music is fairly common with artists. The melodic spin that is incorporated with Christmas music is unique within itself. It can be soft and cute like Justin Bieber's Mistletoe, or have a hip-hop harmonic feel like Destiny's Child's 8 Days of Christmas. But with Mariah, her music is universally fit, and that's what makes it such a compelling go-to Christmas soundtrack that goes #1 every year. Like, literally, it goes #1 every single year. Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You isn't just a song, it's a holiday empire. Since its release in 1994, it's become the go-to Christmas anthem, dominating the charts every year and earning over 2 billion streams on Spotify. It's topped the Billboard Hot 100 multiple times, proving its staying power as a timeless hit. Culturally, the song cemented Mariah as the Queen of Christmas. You hear it in every mall, every holiday party, and in countless movies and commercials. It's practically the soundtrack of December. It's been covered endlessly, but nobody does it like Mariah. The song raking in $60 million in royalties, making it one of the most profitable songs ever. But it's not just about the money, it's about the magic. Mariah created something so universally loved that it feels like Christmas isn't complete without hearing these few simple notes. It's like Michael Jackson Thriller. Every Halloween, you know it's coming. Mike got Halloween and Mariah got Christmas. It's incredible to see Mariah go on tour every single year during Christmas. She is the only artist to have a guaranteed job during the holiday seasons. By October, she's cashing in millions. If she really wanted to, she only has to tour for a month out the year and she'd be alright for the rest of the year. So that's why when I talk longevity, Mariah has it for life. Excluding her entire discography, just from that Christmas album alone, Mariah has longevity. The next year, Mariah Carey drops Daydream, and it's nothing short of a masterpiece that showcased her evolution as an artist and solidified her as a global superstar. But not without issues. Not to us, Daydream is a great mix of songs and upbeat melodies, but to Tommy and Sony, Mariah was shying away from her soulful ballads. Around this time, Mariah was departing from her allegiance to pop and gravitated heavily towards R&B and hip-hop. She started collabing with more black artists, releasing the heartfelt ballad One Sweet Day featuring Boyz II Men. When One Sweet Day dropped, Boyz II Men were at the height of their fame, dominating the R&B and pop charts with their smooth harmonies and emotional ballads. They were already known for their hits like End of the Road and I'll Make Love to You. They were already a cultural force, blending mainstream appeal with soulful depth. Teaming up with Mariah Carey, they created magic with One Sweet Day, a heart-wrenching song about loss that resonated with millions. The song didn't just top the Billboard Hot 100, it reigned there for a record-breaking 16 weeks, solidifying Boyz II Men and Mariah as legends. It took almost 20 years till Despacito and Old Town Road tied it and broke it with 19 weeks.
And I know you're shining down on me from heaven.
The album brought us one of the most iconic hits, including the chart-topping song Fantasy, which gave us this iconic scene in Rush Hour. Which is funny because the album dominated the Asian charts too. And the next single, Always Be My Baby, instantly became one of Mariah Carey's most beloved hits. The song, with its breezy melody and irresistible hook, showcased her ability to create timeless love anthems. During the recording of Daydream, Mariah also worked on a rock album called Someone's Ugly Daughter. Writing, producing, and singing as a side venture, Columbia refused to release the album with her lead vocals because they thought it would ruin her image. Mariah's friend Clarissa.C was brought in to become the face of Chick, and her vocals were layered on top. With all this success, Mariah was still having problems with Tommy. Things did not get better, and as time went on, their union was more strained. Mariah continuing to feel controlled and constrained in the relationship. But from Tommy's point of view, he admits he was controlling, but also felt like Mariah's entourage glamorized the chain of events. From how he saw it, Mariah would sneak out while he was sleeping and go out to parties, and it increased the mistrust he had for her. A situation where it emulated a daughter running away from her father to break free and live her life as a young adult. One night, Mariah went out and met Derek Jeter, and that moment that they met, it gave Mariah a sense of freedom. She had an emotional connection with him, which drove her to want to pursue Derek. At this point, Mariah had only been with Tommy, so Derek felt refreshing to her, as she credited him for giving her the courage to break free from Tommy. This fling that he helped execute gave Mariah the rush she needed. Thank you to Derek for giving Mariah the emotions to write one of her best albums. Like literally, I'm inserting my opinions. This album is the best album I have ever heard in my life. Butterfly is delicious gold from beginning to end. It's immaculate in every form and is genuinely a beautifully produced album, a masterpiece in my world. The layers in this album is absolutely to die for. The single Honey is a classic within itself and one of the only times you'll ever see Mariah dance. For this album, she worked with producers like Diddy, Missy Elliott, and Q-Tip, amazing producers that helped create key production notes. The beats flowed so well and it was really unique for the era. This video was her first time spitting away from Tommy and it showed a more sexual side to Mariah. Her next hits were My All, Rooftop, and Butterfly.
I'd give my all to have your wings and prepare to fly. Vision you, caressing me.
I mean, shout out to Mariah's pen because she writes all her hits. But again, shout out to Derek for inspiring her. Critics noticed Mariah's incorporation of breathy vocals in this album. Surprisingly, with all the albums that Mariah has released, people still question whether or not she could sing or was using help. But once again, she proved the critics wrong by performing the singles live. A lot of people don't realize how difficult it is to switch from airy, breathy vocals to high-pitched belts.
You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't accuse me of not singing again, ever.
No, but
You feel me? You
I
see
can
that?
feel you.
Imagining I'm looking in your eyes. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't accuse me of not singing again, ever.
This album wasn't as commercially successful as her other albums, which is hard to beat because she's competing with herself, but she still held the record for the most number ones for a female with My All. Due to the fact that Mariah was being recognized more for her unique powerhouse vocals, the industry saw Mariah as a competitor for Whitney Houston, who is one of the best vocalists of all time. Whitney's vocals will never be matched. She was truly one of a kind and was becoming extremely popular in all sectors of music, not just urban media. Her voice was too beautiful to deny. So since Mariah, although she is mixed, she's very much white passing in a sense. Like, let's be honest. So when they ushered Mariah in, their goal was to get her in the same level as Whitney by having her work with her producers and writers to fully emulate Whitney's success. Mariah could have easily fell in this trap if she was desperate and thirsty, but Mariah was very self-aware and sure of herself and her talent. She could admit at first that she did have weird feelings towards Whitney due to the constant industry whispers and the headlines saying they had a rivalry. And I do think the comparisons between Whitney and Mariah were definitely a reach because they honestly don't sound alike at all. I think it's because they're both strong singers, but their singing styles are way too different to actually compare. If I could compare Whitney to a white woman, it would be like Celine Dion or something. Definitely not Mariah Carey, but the industry was adamant on pushing that narrative.
Last week we had Mariah Carey here in the studio.
You did? How is she doing?
Well, she was doing great.
Oh, great.
Yes.
It's great.
What I'm curious about, what do you think of her?
What do I think of her?
Yes?
I don't think of her. I don't think of her. Musically, what do I think of her?
Yes.
I think she's a good singer.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
What do you think about when people compare Mariah Carey to you? How do you feel about that?
Let me think. I think that Mariah has a great voice. I think she's a good singer. Yes. Absolutely. I think that Mariah is Mariah, and that's what she should be known for her work, and not for being compared or sounding like me. You know, I don't really hear it. You know, there are a few inflections. You know, inflections mean, you know, oh yeah, you know, that's in, you know, that's runs and inflections. So she does a little bit of that. I think she and I probably have the same tones, you know, in some areas, but I don't think that she sounds like me, nor do I sound like her.
But it wasn't until Mariah actually met her in person that she knew they clicked on a personal level. They collabed on the single When You Believe for the Prince of Egypt movie, which is regarded as one of the best animation movies of all time. Not in the time of its release, but decades later. Their duet was beautiful and it shut down the rumors about a feud.
Now, everyone I know has thought that this was a big rivalry between the two of you. You certainly have put that to rest.
Yeah,
I think we have. Well, it was always drama. People always,
dramatics.
Dramaticking.
Dramaticking. That's all right.
Don't you think it so annoys me because they only say that about women. They never say
About
Ted
men.
Koppel and Dan Rather are
Having a feud, cat
yes,
fight.
feuding.
You know
They
what I'm
never.
saying? No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Just the ladies,
Yeah, sexist, but what are you gonna do? It's pretty standard.
Were you a little intimidated though? I mean, when you walked in the room with The Voice.
I didn't know what to do because, who knew that we would get along? I mean, people didn't know. You never know when you meet somebody who you're gonna click with.
Now, had you all?
Now we're hitting a period where Mariah filed for divorce from Tommy Mottola.
The singer is separating from her husband, Sony Music President Tommy Mottola, on a trial basis. That according to publicists for the pair. They were married in June 1993. Publicists say the couple remain friends and will continue their business relationship. Carey has recorded most of her biggest hits on the Sony label.
Now that Mariah is one album away from fulfilling her contract, she finished her 6th album, Rainbow, in 3 months, which makes sense since her now ex-husband will have a hand in her career. Mariah was doing whatever it took to get up out of there. Mariah had fully separated herself from Tommy, both personally and professionally, but his influence still lingered in the industry. As the head of Columbia Records, Tommy allegedly sought to control Mariah's career even after their divorce, creating challenges for her creative freedom during the production of Rainbow. Mariah had alluded to feeling stifled by Tommy's efforts to dictate her artistic choices, particularly when it came to her collaborations with hip-hop artists, a direction she was passionate about exploring. The tension became public when Mariah accused Columbia Records of sabotaging the promotion of Rainbow. She believed that the label was deliberately under-promoting the album to prevent her from moving on to other ventures after her contract ended. Despite these challenges, Rainbow produced hits like Heartbreaker and Thank God I Found You, proving Mariah's resilience as an artist, with the album at the time becoming her highest first-week sales of her career. However, the struggle over this album underscored the strained dynamics of her relationship with Tommy, who, even after their marriage ended, seemed unwilling to fully let her go. This became a complicated situation because Tommy was a powerful executive for Sony, one of the biggest entertainment companies in the world.
Were you worried when Mariah and Tommy broke up and he's the head of Sony Records?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Petrified. Because I felt if he can make a career, he can break a career.
Do you think that he might do that? Try to hurt her career?
I hope not. I hope he doesn't.
But there's that doubt.
Always.
Are you afraid? He listens to this interview and he gets mad. And he may not want to put out your next album. I mean, he is in control in that sense of your albums, yes?
He's the head of the company, so he's the one who's calling the shots. And really, I would like to have a good relationship.
Everything went through him within the label, and Mariah unfortunately had to go through a very rough period where Tommy made things very difficult for her. Michael Jackson has always spoken against Tommy and Sony. He didn't like the company or him. He felt like they were controlling, greedy, and power hungry. He openly defended Mariah and spoke out in solidarity for her.
And Tommy Mottola is a devil. I'm not supposed to say what I'm going to say right now, but I have to let you in on a secret.
Say it.
So, please don't videotape what I'm going to say, okay? Turn that off, please. No, what? I don't mind. Tape it.
Oh! Michael is getting gangster today!
Mariah Carey, after divorcing Tommy, came to me crying. She was crying so badly I had to hold her. And she said to me that this is an evil man. And Michael, this man follows me, she said. He taps her phones. And he's very, very evil, and she doesn't trust him. And he is a horrible human being. And we have to continue our drive until he's terminated.
Tensions were rising, and it became very obvious to Mariah what was happening behind the scenes with the release of Rainbow. Even if it was successful with Rainbow going #1, Sony slowly stopped pushing Mariah, so she started doing slight damage control and began posting messages on her website, sharing inside information with fans and telling them to request her songs Can't Take That Away on radio stations. Ultimately, the song was only given a very limited and low promotion release. After years of Sony dropping millions to boost Mariah, all of a sudden the well was drying up. Luckily, Mariah had enough pull to get away from her contract with Columbia and sign one of her biggest deals in history. She signed an $80 million 5-album deal with Virgin Records. Tommy, who felt bested and wronged, was not happy. Yes, Mariah was talented, but he felt like he really built Mariah up, spent years making her career a priority, and she was just about to leave? She's just not gonna up and move on and keep making millions after all of his hard work. Oh no, he was not going to let her go without it being a fight. The glitter era was one of the most dramatic and challenging periods for Mariah's career. The album released in 2001 was a bold departure, embracing a 1980s post-disco vibe to match the film's 1983 setting. Mariah had full creative control over the project for the first time, but tensions with her label, Columbia Records, and the fallout from her divorce from Tommy made the process incredibly stressful. On top of that, her relationship with Latin singer Luis Miguel ended, adding even more personal turmoil. By July 2001, everything seemed to hit a breaking point, and Mariah's behavior became erratic for that time period. She posted worrying messages on her website and made a bizarre surprise appearance on TRL, where she pushed an ice cream cart and stripped down into a tight outfit.
Is this shirt? Yes, of course it does. What are you doing? Oh my god. What are you doing? Mariah Carey is stripping on TRL right now. Is it my birthday? I didn't know about it? Wow.
You like this?
Holy mackerel.
You like this?
Hey, can we get the AC cranked down? The AC, crank it down. Get nice and cool. Wow.
You like this?
What are you doing? What did you bring?
I'm trying to. You're my therapy session right now, Carson.
Okay,
you
what's
see,
wrong?
every now and then, somebody needs a little therapy.
Yes, I understand that.
And today is that moment for me.
What's wrong? You weren't.
Everything's
aren't you
great.
busy? You just came by TRL
Hello?
to hang out? I did not know about this.
We're just here.
What is this?
It's
You brought this
funny
ice cream?
because although her appearance was weird because it was unplanned, Carson Daly obviously did not like that Mariah popped up unannounced. His jokes kept picking at that, and it was like he was trying to reassure the producers he had no idea she was gonna be there. I do get it takes him off script, but he could have made her pop up more comfortable and fun. The stress Mariah was going through at that time, they call her crazy for that episode, but she wasn't even doing anything crazy. I think she was moving impulsively, and it was just nerve-wracking for her because she was under a lot of pressure. For Mariah, it was an attempt on trying to recapture some media attention for her project, and it did work. This became an iconic episode, so at least we know to some level the backlash was worth it.
You know, and I guess it was around that time that infamous TRL stunt that you had to promote Loverboy happened, where it was kind of planned and produced, and I just wonder, like, did Carson Daly ever apologize to you, or did you ever see him after the fact?
And you know, I feel bad about that, but I don't feel bad about it because
it happened.
It happened, and look, I can't. So you know, we're all dealing with it now when we're on Zoom calls and people are talking in our ears, and the producers are sometimes talking, and then you're having to be here with the guest or with the interviewer, however it goes. And back then, that's how it was. He was listening to his thing, and then it was a stunt gone awry, as we say. It was not like, oh my God. By today's standards, it's like nothing. It wouldn't even get picked up in one place. I brought an ice cream cart to TRL and had a little moment because I was, you know, trying desperately not to allow a huge corporate entity and someone with an agenda to destroy my career. So, you know, that moment was a really screwed up thing. But again, like, I look at it now and I'm like, oh, please. They acted like as if I had like stripped butt naked on TV, which today would also be a normal everyday occurrence. And might I add that people are staging their own stunts, their own meltdowns, and all their stuff just for the attention. Like back then, if you did that, it lived on forever. It was like, oh my gosh, did you hear about this? We're lucky if they stay on one subject for 24 hours in today's world. So yeah, right. It's a different time, but to live through that.
Mariah was dealing with stress and exhaustion. She stated in a People magazine interview, "For a long time, I thought I had severe sleep disorder. It wasn't normal insomnia, and I wasn't lying awake counting sheep. I was working and working and working. I was irritable and in constant fear of letting people down. It turns out that I was experiencing a form of mania. Eventually, I would just hit a wall. I guess my depressive episodes was characterized by having low energy. I would feel so lonely and sad. even guilty that I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing for my career. It was then that she was hospitalized for 2 weeks and diagnosed with bipolar 2. In her 2020 memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, Mariah opened up about the harsh realities of her relationship with her family, describing how she often felt more like an ATM with a wig on than a loved one. She shared how her white mother would call the police on her black children and ex-husband without hesitation, and how her family seemed to see her primarily as a source of money. By 2001, Mariah was being pushed to her breaking point, overworked by the people around her, including her family. She revealed that she had gone 6 days with just 2 hours of sleep while juggling music videos and recording sessions. Desperate for rest, Mariah slipped away to her mother's house, a home she had bought for her, but instead of finding support, she was woken up by her mother, who insisted she needed to get back to work because the record label was looking for her. That moment for her became the final straw. A heated argument broke out between Mariah and her mother, and before she knew it, the police were called. Mariah was escorted out of the house she had provided for her mother. Shortly after, her brother Morgan, who she thought she had started to rebuild a relationship with, suggested she go to a spa in LA to relax. Trusting him, Mariah agreed, only to discover she had been sent to a hardcore detox and rehabilitation facility without her knowledge or consent. This betrayal was a turning point that highlighted just how strained and exploitative her family relationships had become. Mariah Carey soon realized the alarming extent to which her family was trying to exploit her vulnerability. In her memoir, she explained their likely motive. If they could prove I was unstable, they certainly could have believed they would become the executors of my affairs. This hinted at their attempt to position themselves to control her fortune and career, essentially aiming for a conservatorship over her life and finances. Mariah reflected on how she was blinded by the love she once had for her family, as well as the betrayal and childhood trauma that clouded her judgment. The love she once held for her family was gone. It became clear to her that her mother and brother weren't protecting her. They were aligning themselves with the record company and seemingly working against her best interests. She pointed out the timing of their actions, noting that their accusations of instability and attempts to institutionalize her came immediately after she had signed one of the biggest record deals for a solo artist in history. It was a calculated move to gain control, not just over her personal life, but also over her success and finances. This betrayal underscored the toxic and exploitative dynamics within her family, leaving Mariah to deal with the fallout on her own. This is a statement from Mariah about dealing with the power of her ex. Much of what went wrong with Glitter led back to Tommy. He was furious when I cut the strings he used to manipulate me. He was not going to let me or Glitter shine. But that same year, things got even worse. Mariah describes working on the lead single for Glitter, a song called Loverboy. She said her original idea was to use a sample from the song Firecracker by Yellow Magic Orchestra. Tommy's spies in Sony found out, and the sabotage started. Tommy found himself a new protege in the business, Jennifer Lopez. Loverboy was successful, making it one of the year's best-selling singles despite limited radio play. But unfortunately, Never Too Far was a single that was overshadowed. The release of Glitter and its soundtrack was delayed, but when it finally came out, well, yeah, it was released on the worst day in American history.
Panicked the whole day.
Sarah just happened to be running late that day because she stopped at a store to buy a new CD from her favorite singer, Mariah Carey. It was a chance decision that may have ultimately saved her life.
For that reason alone, it was one of her worst-selling albums, but there was a lot of commotion going on. It was met with brutal reviews and lackluster sales. Critics tore it apart, calling it messy and forgettable. No matter what Mariah did, it came with pitfalls. Virgin Records, who had signed Mariah to the massive deal, bought out her contract for $28 million after the album flopped. Reflecting on this time, Mariah admitted that her decision to sign with Virgin was all about money, something she regretted deeply. After everything, she retreated to Italy for 5 months, where she focused on writing new music. By that time, she signed a new $24 million deal with Island Records. She was ready to rebuild her career. While Glitter was a low point for Mariah, it became a cult favorite over time, and the whole experience proved just how resilient and determined she is as an artist. Mariah Carey's Charm Bracelet was released in December of 2002, and it marked a heartfelt return to music following her hiatus after Glitter, and her highly publicized breakdown where she almost had the Britney fate. The album was deeply personal, reflecting on Mariah's emotional recovery. Songs like Through the Rain became anthems of perseverance. While the album didn't replicate the commercial highs of her earlier work, debuting at number 3 on the billboards, it was an important step in re-establishing her place in the industry. During this time, Mariah was also navigating personal challenges. Her relationship with her family remained strained, with ongoing conflicts rooted in betrayal and exploitation. Additionally, her romantic life was quiet compared to previous years, as she focused on rebuilding her career and personal well-being. Despite the lukewarm critical reception of Charm Bracelet, Mariah used this period as a foundation for the monumental comeback she would achieve with her next album. Now, by this time, critics said Mariah's career is over. They said she was washed up and she was never gonna be the Mariah Carey we once knew. With back-to-back lukewarm albums, as the critics would call it, they didn't see her coming back to what she once was in the 80s. Mariah used this doubt in the media as a monumental comeback she would achieve with her next album, The Emancipation of Mimi. This era was a testament to her determination to reclaim her narrative, both professionally and personally. The Emancipation of Mimi was a groundbreaking album for Mariah. Not just a comeback, it was just a declaration for her enduring talent. After years of personal and professional struggles, this album re-established Mariah as a dominant force in the music industry. It was immediately successful, not with the old generation, but also with the new generation, debuting at number 1 on Billboard and becoming the best-selling album of 2005. She had hits like We Belong Together, which spent 14 weeks at number 1, where she pettily wore the wedding dress she married Tommy in, running away into the sunset with Mr. Prison Break. Her other singles were Shake It Off and Don't Forget About Us, which were successful.
Come back, baby, please, 'cause we belong together. Cause the love it ain't the same, and you keep on playing games like you.
A lot of people deem this album, just like her other albums, as one of Mariah Carey's timeless classics. The Emancipation of Mimi was a triumphant chapter in Mariah's story. It was considered a comeback album. The album's title symbolized her liberation from the constraints of her past relationships, industry expectations, and personal hardships she had to endure. This era not only solidified her as an enduring icon, but showed Mariah was still the best. Mariah described the album as a party record, capturing the fun and the excitement of getting ready to go out. She wanted the album to reflect the lively and carefree energy, and she did exactly that. The album topped the charts in the US, becoming her 5th number 1 album, and her first since Butterfly. Critics, of course, welcomed it warmly, praising both the music and Mariah's ability to reconnect with her audience in such a powerful way. This was around the time she met her soon-to-be husband/ex-husband, Nick Cannon. A lot of people felt like her and Nick Cannon's union was weird. But at the same time, Nick was really successful. He was a kid actor on the show All That and had his own show on SNCC, the Nick Cannon Show, that ran for 3 seasons.
Stuff on the Nick Cannon Show.
Hey, yo, what's up, you guys? Nick Cannon here. Make sure you watch my show this week, because I'm taking over fitness, baby.
Nick Cannon, taking the world and mixing it up.
Isn't this fun? Let it rip. You don't get an allowance? It's all about style. Now it's time to get down to business.
The new Nick Cannon Show premieres January 19th at 9:30, 8:30 Central, only in SNCC.
He was in the cult classic Drumline, he had a good stand-up comedy career, and considering his history with the network, he became the chairman of Teen Nick. They didn't date when they first initially met, but as time went on, they reconnected. But they moved pretty fast. He courted Mariah for 6 weeks when they got married. Mariah described the marriage as safe, feeling like she could be herself around him and how he paid attention to her. Nick popped the question to Mariah twice. First with a 17-karat pink diamond ring hidden in a ring pop, and then again on a romantic helicopter ride all over New York City. You can only imagine how much Mariah was smitten by his gesture. How could she resist? It was a definite yes. Nick featured in Mariah Carey's video for Bye Bye. She released the album E=MC², which had the singles Touch My Body, which became her number 1 single, surpassing Elvis Presley for the most number 1s. especially for the year it was released. 2008 was a weird time for veteran artists in the industry. The music was shifting and it became more difficult for established artists to keep up with the shift. Now, one thing people always loved about Mariah was her ability to throw shade and keep it pushing. She doesn't beef, she's good at throwing snarky remarks with a smile on her face. It heightens the diva personality she embodies. We have a few timeless darts she threw at Jennifer Lopez.
Sweet.
Und was ist mit J-Lo?
Die kenne ich nicht.
Oops.
Is all the attention Jennifer Lopez gets, does that bother? Is there rivalries, by the way, in this business?
There are rivalries, but I don't think she has anything to do with me. I mean, my whole thing is singing, writing
She's
songs.
an actress.
Yeah, and I've been doing this, my whole life. Singing is first and foremost. It's a God-given talent that I'm grateful for. Her thing is something different.
And her short feud with Christina Aguilera.
The clause came out when asked about fellow diva Mariah Carey. Christina says, quote, "She was never cool to me, to the point that one time we were at a party and I think she got really drunk and she had just really derogatory things to say to me. But it was at that time that she had that breakdown, so she might have been very medicated." Mariah did not take that sitting down, telling us today, quote, "I had hoped that Christina was in a better place now than the last time I saw her when she showed up uninvited at one of my parties and displayed questionable behavior. It is sad yet predictable that she would use my name at this time to reinvent past incidents for her promotional gain. It is in my heart to forgive, and I will keep her in my prayers." Nothing like a good old celebrity feud.
But it's never gotten to the point where she needed to throw shade in her music, or worse, release a chart-topping diss track. In the early 2000s, drama between Mariah Carey and Eminem started brewing over conflicting stories about their past. Eminem said they dated and kept mentioning Mariah in his songs and interviews, while Mariah was like, no, insisting nothing serious had happened between them. Their back and forth escalated over the years, with Eminem referencing her in tracks like Superman and Jimmy Crack Corn, and Mariah subtly clapping back in songs like Clown on her Charm Bracelet album. By 2009, things hit a boiling point when Mariah dropped Obsessed as a lead single from her album Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel. The song directly called out someone as obsessed, and the music video made it clear she was talking about Eminem and definitely calling him obsessed with her. In the video, Mariah even dressed up as a stalker, who is aka Eminem. The track became a hit, reaching the top 10. Eminem fired back with The Warning, throwing jabs at Mariah. They did a lot of back and forth interviews where Eminem said they did stuff and Mariah was adamant that they didn't.
Okay, so what was going on between you and Eminem, if anything?
Nothing. Look, I talked to him, I have spoken to him a few times, whatever, but in terms of me having like an intimate relationship with men, I can name them all on one hand, and he ain't on the hand. Less than one hand, okay?
The Mariah thing, yeah, that's true. Those rumors are true, and I'm not gonna deny them.
Did you date him?
No. Can I just clarify that I did not have a physical relationship with him? I did not have an intimate relationship. I've been with less men than I can, than on one hand. So he's not one of those men.
Who is that? You love it. Yo, that sounds like Mariah Carey.
That's me.
Oh, get the fuck out of here, man. Don't tell me she's behind one of these doors. Mariah, I told you to stop following me every motherfucking city we go. It's over between us. Remember you said there was never anything between us? Remember you said on VH1 or MTV or whatever it was that there was never anything between us, and you never flew just from my house at 5 o'clock in the morning and passed out on my motherfucking kitchen floor? Why you so obsessed with me? Boy, I wanna know.
I'm obsessed now. Oh geez, that's supposed to be me in the video with the goatee.
Even though Obsessed was a good song and did great numbers, it became the indicator that Mariah won the battle. But Eminem's diss track was pretty brutal. He embarrassed himself in spite of telling the quote-unquote truth of what happened between them. Now obviously, with Nick and Mariah being together, Nick was coming out in defense of his wife. And years later, he got into a rap battle with Eminem, but Eminem never responded, but honestly, who cares? Within a few years of marriage, she had her twins Morocco and Monroe, a boy and girl. By this time, Mariah was 41 when she gave birth. It didn't take long before Mariah and Nick started having problems in their relationship. If you haven't been living under a rock, Nick has now established himself as some sort of womanizer with 6 baby mamas and a total of 12 children now. The fall of Nick and Mariah's relationship seemingly stems from his ego and disloyalty. Now, I don't think Nick Cannon is an absolute terrible guy, but what makes him a questionable guy is the fact that he is aware of his emotional intelligence. He admits that his relationship with Mariah was blissful, but his ego from being Mariah's man got in the way.
I'm a different person, it's a different time in my life, and nobody will ever be able to steal my spirit again. So I'm just happy to be in love and to be here.
You told me that you were afraid that you could never trust anyone again. Do you trust him?
Sometimes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sometimes?
Okay, I want to hear about
Can I
this.
trust you more than sometimes? You tell me.
Absolutely.
Okay, then I trust him.
Are you happy together?
Absolutely.
We are, especially when he's nice. When he's nice, he's the best guy on the world.
Other times he's not nice?
Yeah, you know.
Really?
He's a man, Barbara.
I got married in my 20s still, you know what I mean, to the biggest star in the world. My trajectory was here, and then hers, she's already in a different stratosphere. I would lay up at night thinking like, is this who I am? Am I Mariah's man? Is that what my life is supposed to be? There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm like, this ain't,
you had to be a
the
different
hustler.
version of yourself.
And then when you have children, your man is like, wait, I'm carrying a purse, the diaper bag, you know. I'm standing on the corner. I'm like, wait, you know, like she rocking being all the alpha that she
Well, by the way,
is.
she deserves it. By the way,
I believe she needs a dude like that.
Yeah.
I'm just not that dude. Her and I never had problems.
Yeah.
Never argued. Never even with me struggling in this space.
Yeah.
She's so understanding and so evolved and lives in her own world. That's the thing. When someone has their own world and you got to be a participant in that. You know what I mean? Like I'm main character. It was like muscle atrophy. I'm not being the dude that God put me on this earth to be. The love kept me there. Even, you know, made it work so well because I was like, oh, you need somebody. You need a support system. You need somebody that don't want you for your money. You need somebody that's sincere. You need somebody that's willing to build a family and raise some, you know, amazing kids together. And that was my goal. But then there was just something constantly in me like, I got it.
The man.
Yeah.
You're acting as if I'm entering every scenario with the full me, and we all, every time someone meets someone, you're meeting their representative. I know how to turn on the perfect man.
Depending
and
on
so
the
therefore
person,
I may have manipulated a situation, and therefore, so it's to no discredit to anyone else,
I
but
got you.
I've come into every situation. I can be God-fearing, celibate, the one that you want. I can tell you everything that you want in a man and show you that. I can open the doors, lay down the cloak, send the jet, do it all to be like, oh my goodness, I've never, and then Toxic Nick shows up, and you like, this motherfucker got me.
No, but
he
what
done
you
gave
said
me
is
the
perfect.
draws, and I ain't heard from him in 3 weeks.
What you said is perfect. No, what you said is perfect because you named all of the low-functioning, superficial things that a low-functioning woman would fall into.
Church,
women,
that ain't low-functioning.
Baby, any woman,
we going to see the Lord together.
any woman or man,
or the mosque, wherever you want to go. I know them both.
Any person who's done the work, who gained a sense of self, who's worked on their pain pockets, who's worked on their trauma,
are still going to be vulnerable.
They're going to be vulnerable.
They're still going to yearn. And late at night when you're sleeping alone, you go, I wish I had a strong man to rub my back.
They're going to be imperfect, but that person would want a strong, healthy, functioning man, not a low-functioning man.
Sometimes a nigga with some good hands.
Not a low-functioning man, no. That's what I'm saying is the difference. But
every woman, you can't, Doc, you can't sit here and say that.
But you're speaking from your experience, which makes it better.
I'm saying,
because your experience of these women is that they fall short for a jet and a good meal and a good man who says he goes
and
to church.
And some strong hands.
A high and let me go further, and probably a big penis. But okay,
you said it, not
so
me.
let me go. But again, a high functioning. I'm not even talking about value. A high functioning woman who's done the work. Who's done the work.
I'm trying to hear what this high functioning woman is.
But a high functioning woman, you cannot send a jet and be toxic, and she will go on the
She don't know I'm toxic yet.
A high-functioning woman wouldn't even attract you, baby.
Nick bagged Mariah and played his role for as long as he could, and then his true representative came out once he finished his conquest. Nick now has his name forever attached to the Mariah Carey. Although he did love her, he also acknowledged that it did bruise his ego. and he couldn't handle a relationship with Mariah Carey anymore. Now he just impregnates and sits on podcasts to talk about relationships like a relationship guru when he's a part of the problem. He talks a good game, but he doesn't walk with a moral code. Nick Cannon is a chapter in Mariah's story that has thankfully been closed. In 2013, Mariah Carey became a judge on American Idol, a role she was happy to take until she realized that she wasn't going to be the only judge. She took the position because she thought she was going to be the only female judge. Well, that didn't last because they added Nicki Minaj to the panel. Nicki and Mariah had already been acquainted with each other. They did a whole song together and shot a video, but as co-judges, they didn't necessarily mesh well. Mariah, being the queen of shade, had a tendency to throw shots at Nicki, and they did a lot of back and forth. This catty behavior was presented as a feud, but Nicki and Mariah have said that the producers presented it that way in order to increase ratings. But they definitely had issues and threw shade at each other off screen. But now that time has passed, they both acknowledge they have mutual respect for each other, and most of their problems was because of miscommunication. Mariah was a judge for one season and openly said she hated her time on American Idol because it wasn't what she thought it was going to be. She acknowledges that she would rather just go on tour and drop albums, which sounds about right considering it's Mariah. Music is Mariah. Anything else isn't a factor for her.
So what happened with American Idol? That's over, right? No more going back?
That's over.
Did you like it?
Over. No. Honestly, I hated it because it
Really?
Here's what it was. I was led to believe I was the first person signed on. I was, I don't want to say anything that's gonna, heaven forbid, people, look like I'm saying something negative, but honestly, I thought it was going to be a 3-person panel. They gave me a nice dangling monetary moment, and I was just like, okay, this is for me. Randy Jackson will be there. I've known him forever. He used to play bass for me. Like, this isn't a big deal. This will be nothing. But it wasn't that. It was like hell, going to work every day in hell with Satan.
Really?
No, just playing. It didn't affect me that much. I was just I was disappointed.
Now here's where me diving into the rest of Mariah's album stops, because this woman has an elite catalog that spans literal decades. Just know music is her passion and life's work, and she has a lot to show for it. During her separation with Nick, something started brewing in the background. Mariah started filling into her role as the Queen of Christmas from her Christmas album in the 90s. It started becoming a regular motion for her song to go #1 yearly. She even re-released her Christmas album and remixing the songs with artists like Justin Bieber. And what makes Mariah's career amazing is even if the newer generation doesn't truly know how impactful Mariah's catalog is, what we do know is that when it comes to Christmas, Mariah has become a staple for a reason. She is known for her yearly Christmas tours and has delivered amazing performances. But I would say, as amazing as Mariah is, her voice at times is not the same as it once was. And that's not speaking badly about her. It's fairly common with age and pregnancy for your voice to change, especially with Mariah's vocal range and shifts. Her vocal ability is hard to maintain, and there has been instances where it showed.
Make my wish come true for Christmas.
10 years from that video, Mariah is 55, and sometimes those notes don't hit the same, and sometimes it does. Either way, if this video doesn't show you Mariah is a pop queen, then I don't know what will. Because this woman's career is undeniably amazing, unforgettable, and cemented for life. Longevity for an artist is about more than just staying in the spotlight. It's the ability to remain relevant, influential, and admired across different eras and generations. It's about creating work that stands the test of time, resonating with audiences well beyond your peak years. Longevity often comes from consistency and continuously evolving, breaking boundaries, and connecting deeply with fans on both a personal and cultural level. Longevity is impact and maintaining a legacy that inspires future artists to come. Mariah is the embodiment of longevity, minding your business, making good music, having a voice to remember, and living in their truth. Well, that concludes today's video. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about Mariah's longevity below. Thank you for watching. Toodles!